And can you hear me?
I can hear you, Bob.
Okay, great. One thing a lot of people don't know is that you used to be a pilot, and I guess you got your pilot's license when you were pretty young.
You know, Bob, it's actually when you first start into your flight school, you'll get into the first part of it, and what happens is when you'll have usually average of about 20 hours or so, but for myself, I was lucky I did it in 10 hours. And they'll always tell you that moment you won't know when it will come. You'll think this won't be the day. And what it's called is you solo, and that's when you fly for the first time for yourself. It's called your student's pilot's license. And I remember a long time ago, just like it was yesterday, I had really flown a couple of times out before, not that great. And the next time I came out, we were in conditions really that were just on borderline. It was unfavorable to fly. It was a little bit of a rain coming, which is not good for a small Cessna single-engine plane. And I had a little bit of a crosswind. A 20-mile-an-hour crosswind is almost over the limit what a plane like that would take. We were right on the verge of it. So I just thought for sure that day I went solo. And my pilot instructor, Jerry Stevens, I remember I land, and he says, pull over to the side, and what they do, they get right out there on the landing strip and they watch you. So I let him out, and I took off. And I remember the last call letters of the airplane was 68 Foxtrot. And I was so nervous, just like, I couldn't get it out. But I'll never forget it, Bob, for the first time, and I was a teenager. Yeah. I flew one Cessna 72 for the first time by myself, and then to me that was probably the greatest accomplishment of my whole life.
Wow, yeah, that's incredible. I tell you, I don't know if I'd have the guts to do it. It's just the heights gets to me a little.
Well, the thing is, Bob, is things like that, and I'm not trying to sound like make this look or sound cocky or anything, but when it is. Not very many people can do it, Bob, and so when I did it, and I was up there, you'll know that people can do this because it's really hard because there's 19 things at one time to take off and land an airplane. And what it does, when you're up there by yourself in an airplane, 2,000 feet looking down, at that moment you are above everyone because you're doing something that everybody wants to try. And of course, my father was a pilot, and it just I always myself, Bob, wanted to be an acrobatic airline or do stunt flying and stuff like that.
Wow. Now, did you ever work doing anything with your pilot's license?
No, Bob, I was only a teenager when I soloed. By the time I got out I was in flight school, it wasn't probably a year after that I got into wrestling, and I didn't have a chance to do any type of flying for money. But I never had a chance to even fly again on my own because after 6 like 1 year of not flying or being what's called checked out, Bob, even if you're a pilot of a Boeing 747, if you haven't ever been, say, every airline that aircraft that you get in, Bob, you have to have been checked out and okay by the Federal Aviation. Someone that's guided and has got able to say, okay, Bob Moran has flown this Cessna 172, he's okay to fly. But if you've never flown one, which everyone usually does, but if you haven't been checked out one in 1 year, you're not allowed to take off in the aircraft.
Wow.
So it's a real tough deal to get into. So I was getting into it. Now I'm 50 years old. I don't think I'm going to be flying an airplane.
No. Now, question for you. Now, how old were you when you actually got involved with wrestling?
Bob, I was just as a teenager, be 19 or 20 years old. And what it was, I was in a gym in Memphis working out, and just a real quick education for people that don't know about wrestling. A long time ago, Bob, before there was the WWF or things like that, there was to the United States, there were probably 15 or 20 little small territories, and Memphis had one. It was called Memphis Championship Wrestling, and all the guys that you would hear of, like Randy Savage, Hillbilly Jim, those guys that were there a long time ago, Lady Poffo, Jake Roberts, all them, they worked the Memphis territory, Hulk Hogan. And then I met these guys in the gym, and they said, what do you think about doing? Well, I had an opportunity I had a scholarship offer at a small college, and I was thinking about going get that, and maybe after 2 years of college, I might make it in the NFL. And they said, man, at that time, Bob, the money at the NFL, this was 2 million years ago, it wasn't that great of money, especially for someone like me who was scheduled to be. It's been hard for me to make it anything probably more than an offensive lineman. I'm not knocking offensive linemen. Back in those days, a good paycheck for them was $50,000 a year. And they just said, you can make this in wrestling. Well, just like a lot of people, Bob, I married young, had a child young, and my wife was pregnant with a child coming. I didn't have 2 years to go to college. This seemed like an opportunity that I could get in right away. I wasn't a wrestling fan, haven't watched wrestling since I was probably in the 3rd or 4th grade. Didn't know anything about wrestling, but I knew it was an avenue to make money. And that's how I got into it.